can I establish your chest size?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm just going to place the tape measure under your arm and across the front of your chest, okay? And you're going to be a 36-inch jacket, so,
right.
Okay, perfect.
Hey there, Paul here for Poker Market. I just spent my hard-earned, extremely high rake back of last month shopping for a tailored suit. I heard some of you guys are having problems with your suits, so I thought I would make a video about it, about suits and suitedness. Jokes aside, in this video I want to talk about suited hands and flush odds. And I want to start off with a question, which is kind of to test your poker knowledge or estimation skills. And the question I want to ask is, if you have a suited hand preflop, any suited hand, doesn't matter, 4-3 of spades, in what scenario do you have a higher chances of completing a flush? Is it with the 4-3 suited preflop, not knowing what board cards are going to come, so, before the flop? Or is it once the flop was dealt and the flop contained exactly one card of your suit? In which situation do you have the higher chances of having a flush by the river, assuming you get there? So to figure that out, we can do one or two things. First one is we try to use Poker Strategy Equilab program and do some smart estimation skills where possible. So something like we look at how much equity do we have with a backdoor flush draw against a hand where you can only win with a backdoor flush draw, and then for the pre-flop flush odds, how much equity do we have with a hand that can only win with a flush against a hand against another hand pre-flop. Although that second thing is very difficult to do. So the other method which we can do to figure out which of these scenarios is more likely is to do a lot of hard math, and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of this video. So I have a notepad prepared here, and the first thing we want to think about is chances of a backdoor flush. And I think most of you are going to be aware of this. It's a pretty easy number that you should have memorized, but we're going to calculate it. And if you don't know the number yet, or you don't know how to calculate it, then pay close attention. Chances of a backdoor flush. So generally this means there is 5 known cards. 5 known cards. So we have 2 suited in our hand. 2 suited, there's the suits again, in our hand. And I guess I can do this like so. And 2 suited in our hand, 1 suited on the flop, and then there is 2 off suited on the flop. This means on the flop. Okay, so this means what are the chances that another suited card is going to come on the turn and another suited card is going to come on the river? For this, we just need the probability of each of those events and multiply them. So another suited card on the turn is going to be, well, how many suits are left? There's 13 cards of each suit in the deck. So since there is 2 of them in our hand and 1 already on the flop, there's going to be 10 left, which can come on the turn. 10 possible turn cards, and that's divided by all the possible turn cards which can come, which is the 52 cards in the deck minus the 5 known ones, so that's going to be 47. And then another suited card on the river, well, there's 9 left out of 46 unknown cards, and then we just multiply, and then that's going to be 90 divided by something I can't do in my head, so we're just going to ask our smart friend and helper Google for this. So I'm just going to really quickly type that in there, 10 over 47 times 9 over 46, and that gives us the familiar value of 4.16%, or roughly 4% for a backdoor flush. So that's all nice and easy, and you should all know that. Now we can double check that in Equilab. So let's take a hand like this. And, well, we cannot directly check it actually, but we can try. So let's construct a situation where the only possible way to win is with having a backdoor flush. That's what I was talking about earlier. So we'll take a board like this and put our opponent on a hand like Queen Jack. So in this case, the only way to get any portion of the flop is by hitting of the pot, and any equity of the pot is by hitting a backdoor flush, right? There's no split pot scenarios. Well, in fact, there is a Queen or a Jack rolling off. Can we get around this? I don't think we can. Yeah, okay, so never mind actually. So there's a split pot scenario where another Queen and a Jack rolls off. in which case we're going to be splitting, so we're going to have equity without the backdoor flush. But besides that, we're only going to have equity on the backdoor flush. And if we put in random suits here, so all the queen jack possibilities, that should take them as average cards, so it should block and not block our backdoor flushes in the same fraction. So this should be pretty close to the 4.16%. And indeed it is. And the excess we have over 4.1% here is coming from the times that the board runs off with a queen and a jack, where we actually end up splitting. So another scenario where we're only going to win exactly with the backdoor flush, I'm not sure. Could put in another hand, I suppose, like king queen, or just any king for that matter. Something like a king 2. But then we have the problem that we get backdoor overflushed, right? So yeah, we also have this problem here that on some of these we're going to get backdoor overflushed, which then of course means we did hit the backdoor flush, but we didn't get that reflected in our equity. So I guess we take them, but if we take them without spades, then it's underrepresented how often our flush is going to be blocked, so that's also a problem. And if we just take king 2 off, I guess that could be pretty damn close to it. No, it's not. Yeah, well, anyways, so the math, of course, is 100% correct, and the way to get close to it, you can play around with Equilab or a similar odds program and see what you can figure out. And then, of course, the second part of the question was, how likely is it to make a flush overall from the pre-flop perspective? And that's not quite as straightforward, so this one's going to take a little bit longer. So here, so this is going to be called, I don't know, chances of, let's make some space, chances of, where's my keyboard? Chances of flush. So here we're going to start with the chances of flopping a flush, which are very similar to above. So chance of flopping a flush. So that's going to be on the first flop card. There's 11 cards left, which connect with our suit out of the 50 cards. So this is only from a pre-flop perspective, of course. So there's 50 cards for the first flop card left. Times that the second card of the flop, there's 10 suited cards left, matched with ours out of the 49 left. And then, of course, that the third card, which is only 9 suited cards left now, matches with our card. That's something like that, which runs off to be a fairly low number, of course. So this is your chances of flopping a flush, actually, without knowing the opponent's whole cards. Actually, a pretty important number to know as well. How likely are you to flop a flush from a pre-flop perspective? And that's going to be about 0.8% or 84. I'm going to need a little bit more accuracy here. And this is very important not to confuse with a different value, which is once there's a 3 flush board, how often do you have a flush? It's a completely different value from how often do you flop a flush from a pre-flop perspective. This is something people get mixed up all the time, especially on quad boards where they're like, well, it's so unlikely someone's going to flop quads, right? If you're pre-flop and you have any card, any hand, how likely are you to flop 4 of a kind? Extremely unlikely. But that does not mean that when the flop is something like Jack, 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 that 4 of a kind is an extremely unlikely hand. And this leads people to like stacking off on Jack, Jack, X boards with pocket aces because they think, well, quads are so unlikely. Well, yes, quads are unlikely, but not when the board is particularly, makes them particularly likely. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. So you have the chance of flopping a flush, which is about 1%. But of course that doesn't tell us what are the chances of making a flush overall. And for this we're going to have to do a few more steps. So one of the steps is imagine you don't just flop the flush, but you make the flush out of 3 possible cards of the 5 cards. So which of those 3 cards could you choose? Well, it could be the first 3, like the flop, 1, 2, 3. It could be the first 2 and then you complete on the turn. It could be the first 2 you complete on the river. It could be the first and a third card, and then you complete on the turn. It could be the first and a third, and you complete it on the river. It could be the backdoor flush scenario, which we had, where the first card on the flop is with the suit, and then turn and river run off backdoor. Then the option for those 3 flush cards to be distributed across the board could be second and third card, and then the fourth on the turn completes the flush. Second and third card, and the river completes it. And one more. 2, 4, 5. So this would be also a backdoor flush, but the second card in the flop was suited to our suits. And then there should be one more, I believe, which is the last 3 cards, also backdoor flush, or in our suits completing our flush. So there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 possibilities of 3 out of the 4 of the 5 board cards being in our flush suits. So in naive, or first step to do it is we just take 10 times the 0.84%, which of course is 8.4%. So the chances of getting a flush overall board cards is going to be about 8.4%, except there's a little bit of a problem. So this value is not quite correct. It's reasonably close, but it's not correct. So why is there a problem? Well, the problem is that some of these cases where the first 3 cards come with a flush are going to overlap with some of the cases where the last 3 cards are going to complete our flush. Because there may be a case where the entire board is flush, right? We have 2 cards of the suit and there's 5 cards of the same suit. That's somewhat unlikely scenario, but that scenario we would have counted twice, or actually way more often than twice. In this case, we would have counted this actually 10 times. So we're going to have to subtract some of the stuff we double counted. And for that, I just prepared that a little bit because I don't want to bore you guys to death with more number juggling. So there is the chances that there was a 4 flush on the board. So what are the chances that there was a 4 flush being dealt on the board was 11 of our suits left times 10 times 9 times 8 and so forth, times the last suit not being of our the last card not being of our suit, which is 39 possibilities. Overall possible boards leads to 0.12% of a total 4 flush showing up. And these 4 flushes, there's 5 different 4 flushes possible, with each of the 5 board cards not being part of it. And each of those we had counted 4 times in this counting 10 different 3-card flushes. So we're going to have to, from this total, going to have to subtract, we counted these 4 flushes 20 times, but they're only supposed to be counted 5 times. So we're going to have to subtract 15 times the 4 flushes, which is about 1.5% subtracted. And then for the 5 flush run out, this one of course is extremely unlikely to occur. But when it does occur, we actually counted it 10 times, so we have to subtract the 9 times actually that it we double counted it, and then we get a total value of the 8.4% up here. So get 8.4% minus 1.5% minus 1.8%. And these numbers are not, 100% accurate, but reasonably close. And this gets us a value of, actually, a small mistake. So this one, of course, is 0.2 here. So 15 times this one is actually 1.5 plus the 3 coming up from here, so 1.8. And this one, of course, has a slightly different decimal point, because this is .02. And then with this one, we should be getting, so it's about 2% subtracted, little tad less subtracted, so it's 6.402 here. All right, and that should be your chances of making a flush. This number, 6.4%, are your chances of making a flush overall when you're seeing 5 board cards with 2 suited hole cards. And so that's, for instance, if you're all in a tournament with a suited hand pre-flop, this is how often you make a flush. And when we compare this value, of course, to our backdoor flush odds, which we had up here of 4%, you can see that pre-flop you have a higher chance of making a flush than when you flop only a backdoor flush, which is slightly counterintuitive, at least for me. When you think about it, getting 1 flush card on the flop seems slightly better than average, but it's actually worse than average. On average, you're going to flop better than a single suited card for your hand. So yeah, that's it. Keep your suits straight and nicely tailored. This was Paul of Poker Market. Take care.